Hello, I'm Alicia Gildy, tuning in from home, and here's what we discussed on CCTU last week regarding the complementary pathways for hydrogen.
We spoke with Kim Okafor, Zero Emission Solutions Manager at Love's Travel Stops, to talk about hydrogen refueling and plug-in charging infrastructure.
Tim Sassine, the Market Development Manager for Ballard Power Systems, provided insights on the leading advancements of fuel cell technologies.
And Mika Miyasato, Senior Transportation Planner at AC Transit, shared tips on deploying both fuel cell and battery electric technologies in public transit. This week on CCTU, we'll take a look at the Northeast region with CalSTART's very own Northeast Regional Director, Ben Mandel. We'll share key takeaways from Climate Week and highlight the growing Northeast actions underway to help meet the goals of 30% zero-emission trucks by 2030.
Remember to watch past episodes of CCTU on our website at calstart.org/CCT update.
And follow us on Twitter at CalSTART for all the latest updates. Well, hello again. Great to see you all and great to have you with us for this October 9th edition of CCTU, Clean Commercial Transportation Update. I'm Bill Van Amberg, along with Alicia Gildy, as always. Alex Gaddis is ably running our webcast today, and Casey Okazaki is producing and also monitoring chat and questions. We have also Whitley Porter, who's managing our look, feel, and marketing. We have a really active chat stream, so we do encourage you to take part in that, and we try to answer questions, and if not online, certainly following up after. We work hard each week to keep you more connected than ever, trying to give you 30 minutes away from those daily distractions that we all have, and really giving you a progress update on what's driving clean commercial transportation forward. And that includes a couple of acknowledgements this week, Alicia, right?
That's right. Hi, everyone, and thank you for making Friday your CCTU day. Well, we have 2 days in particular that were celebrated this week that I wanted to quickly mention. So yesterday was the International Hydrogen and Fuel Cell Day, and that is recognizing the hydrogen atomic level of participation of over 1,000 organizations that are supporting and advancing hydrogen and fuel cell technologies. As well as on Wednesday, here in the state of California, we celebrated our 3rd annual celebration for Clean Air Day, representing more than 2 million actions to advance clean air across the state's 58 counties, Bill.
Good remembrance, if you will, of what we strive for, both the technologies pushing us forward and the end outcomes we're trying to get. And today we're really focusing our rundown on the outcomes we're trying to drive for in the key region of the U.S., the Northeast. Great rundown, Alicia.
Oh, and let me tell you, Bill, you know, that's my old neck of the woods, so I couldn't be more proud for the topic that we're going to be discussing today. And of course, our wonderful Northeast Regional Director, Ben Mandel, who's going to really help us set the stage on the momentum that we're seeing in the Northeast to advance goals and strategies to meet the MOU of the 15 states to support the adoption of zero-emission trucks and buses by 30% by 2030. So looking forward to that discussion and a couple of guests that we're going to have, Bill.
Yeah, we're really going to get down into a little more detail on some of the key issues to push forward. So we have Rishi, who is the Clean Transportation Manager for National Grid, big utility in the Northeast, and Julie Tighe, who's the president of the New York League of Conservation Voters, who's really pushing an effort forward to get a low carbon fuel standard adopted in New York, a really important policy move. So we'll be looking into all of that. But first, let's hear from our attendees.
That's right. Well, and as we're going to be talking about a number of these strategies and actions to really help make that progress in the Northeast, we wanted to get a sense from all of you what kinds of strategies or policies would be most effective in reaching 30% electric or fuel cell vehicle adoption by 2030. And so our options here are utility infrastructure investments and charge rates. Secondly, low carbon fuel standards. Thirdly, vehicle purchase incentives. And then lastly, regulations such as the Advanced Clean Truck Rule. What do you think?
Yeah, interesting. I don't want to color people's voting. We didn't give you an all of the above, but that's the one I would have chosen because we really need a suite of policies to push the change at the pace we're trying to achieve it.
That's right, Bill. And we're going to have two great guests. They're going to talk about some of the things that they're doing that apply to this. All right. So, Alex, what's the results? All right. We're seeing a very popular vote on vehicle purchase incentive programs. That's great. Thank you, everyone. I would say followed by utility infrastructure investments in charge rates, then supporting policies like the Advanced Clean Truck Rule, and then I would say the last that came in was low carbon fuel standards. All right. Thank you, everyone, for your participation.
Great. Well, let's get right at it, and then we'll get to our guests. We have some really exciting news this week. Every week that seems like new things are popping up. Amazon has been promising this new delivery truck, electric delivery truck built by Rivian. Well, they rolled it out this week. In fact, just yesterday. Really cool design, but it also is just brimming with high-tech capabilities in terms of some of its routing software. It will even be able to talk to the driver through the Amazon portal. So really interesting what they've done with this vehicle. They say the first of these will be on the road and running, delivering packages in 2021. We also are excited to see that when they opened a brand new bridge across the Port of Long Beach channel to the Port of LA, the first vehicle that lined up on it was an NFI electric truck built by Volvo. It was the Volvo Electric VNR. In fact, we're involved in that project. It's called Volvo Lights, to test out many of those trucks in the Southern California region. But leading the charge across that newest bridge was an electric truck. And I remember just a few years ago, people were debating, could electric trucks do that? Well, take a look, there it is. Toyota had some big news this week. They announced with their partner Hino, that's a wholly owned truck subsidiary of Toyota, that they will be jointly developing a fuel cell Class 8 truck. Now, Toyota's already used its fuel cell technology working with Kenworth on Class 8 demonstrations, but this will be able to take a new platform, the Hino XL series truck, Class 8 truck, and making it a unified product from Hino and Toyota. That's pretty exciting. Hino is also teaming up with some other companies, including a California innovative firm, Exos, to develop a suite of powertrains for medium-duty trucks to fully electrify. They call this Project Z, and they're going to be looking at multiple powertrains and offerings in that space from their partners. Switching to the Northeast, anybody who's been to Niagara Falls will appreciate this story. The Maids of the Mist boats that take people out into the storming chasm of that water crashing down are electric. As of this week, they rolled out 2 electric boats. They'll be charged each time they come in. ABB provided the powertrain and other expertise for that. That is really cool. We also have other news from the Northeast. The Port Authority of New York, New Jersey, which really operates a variety of things, including the airports in that region, has just completed rolling out 36 electric buses. So each of the 3 major airports in the region now have Proterra electric buses. That's pretty exciting. They say it's the largest deployment on the East Coast. And a new health study that is looking at the TCI Clean Transit Program. These researchers are from Harvard, Columbia, and other universities. We're looking at the Transport and Climate Initiative that is proposed for the Northeast to be able to use cap and trade funds and then reinvest into clean transportation and other sources. What would be the benefits? They found out those benefits would be significant. $11.1 billion by 2032, preventing 4,700 childhood asthma cases and 1,100 deaths. Of course, TCI has to roll out more formally for this to take place, but this is a great initial study on the benefits if that were to move forward. So lots of action this week in our industry and in the Northeast, and some findings that really emphasize why we need to get these activities moving faster. Really sets up our good discussions today, Alicia.
That's right, Bill, and great to highlight these really exciting projects because it tees us up quite well, I would have to say. Well, there's a tremendous amount of activity around the clean vehicle space in the Northeast and in some of the states that are really moving forward and supporting the Memorandum of Understanding to advance clean trucks and buses. And we have our very own Regional Director of the Northeast, Ben Mandel, who actually just recently held a workshop last week for Climate Week to really talk about this in a more meaningful way with partners, and certainly is in the thick of it in terms of really helping CALSTART and our clean transportation community move these aggressive goals forward. Ben, it's great to have you on our program. Always a pleasure. Tell us a little bit about the workshop that you held last week and what were the key takeaways that came away from the discussions?
Thanks so much, Alicia. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and share with our audience some updates out of the Northeast. Hello, everyone from Brooklyn. And first, I just want to acknowledge our great partners at Ceres who co-hosted the great event with us during Climate Week, and acknowledge the terrific speakers we had across industry, advocacy, and government from actually 4 states that joined us on the day. I think my biggest takeaway from the event, which was called Charting a Course to 30 by 30 for zero-emission medium and heavy-duty vehicles, was that there's incredible traction underway right now in our movement to rapidly transform medium and heavy-duty vehicles to zero-emission. We no longer really need to convince decision makers of the imperative of reducing diesel emissions in our communities, although one speaker, Lauren Bailey, of Tri-State Transportation Campaign made crystal clear the linkage between diesel emissions and public health in overburdened and frontline communities. So we're really now in a stage where the technology solutions have been identified and they're known, and we just need to foster greater collaboration between government and industry to identify the right mix of strategies to help get us there and enable success in those technologies. New York already has a lot of strategies in place. Other regional leaders like Massachusetts, New Jersey are exploring what are the next steps they need to take to really activate the market so we can get onto a trajectory where we're talking about 30% of sales being zero emission by 2030.
You know, and that is really the key point right now. And we want to really ask you the next question, Ben, on the MOU process or the Memorandum of Understanding States. Where are we on that front? Where is the action starting to move? Because really the key issues are for the states to start putting together really aggressive suites of policies, tools, regulations, whatever it may be to drive this action.
Yeah, and it's gonna need all of those, right? So we're really excited about the next steps. Our partners at NESCOM, Northeast States for Coordinated Air Use Management, are leading and coordinating that process as they did the MOU that was announced in July, and we had Executive Director Paul Miller with us on a prior version of CCTU to share more about that MOU. So we're working with them and hopefully the industry to engage, you know, the process of figuring out what policies and actions make the cut as recommended strategies to reach the MOU targets, which again are 30% zero emission share of commercial vehicle sales by 2030, as well as 100% by 2050. So we intended our Climate Week event as a way to really jumpstart that dialogue on what important actions states already are in some cases, and then should be prioritizing to get to those next steps to set up ecosystems of success throughout the whole region. And I'm really pleased to share that we've been invited as CALSTART to serve on a stakeholder advisory council to inform the action plan development, where certainly we'll look to engage and get the perspectives of member companies to really substantiate what we likely already know and some of the actions that were in the poll at the top that can really lead the charge here. So purchase incentives, comprehensive infrastructure investment, and I'm really excited that we have a discussion teed up today to highlight what are some of the creative ways we have to finance, you know, some of those investments that are going to be needed.
Ben, that's great. And let's go ahead and open up the discussion because we have 2 great partners that you've brought onto our program today, Ben, that you're working very closely with. First, let me introduce Rishi Sondhi, who is the Clean Transportation Manager for National Grid. And then we're also joined by Julie Tighe, who is the Executive Director of New York's Conservation League of Voters. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you. Great to be here.
You know, you're each leaders in the region, but let's start with a quick overview of your work and kind of the focused area. And Rishi, why don't we start with you? So when you're really talking about what National Grid is doing, where is your focus right now? What are you trying to drive forward? You're even in some regulatory actions to try and drive these things forward.
That's correct, Bill. Just for the folks to know, we operate across Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and New York. And we have actually active programs in each of our 3 jurisdictions. But I also wanted to share that we proposed one of the most comprehensive electric transportation program in New York recently, And what that does is really targets the entire transportation sector. So we've got offering for commercial make-ready programs. So that's something for commercial site hosts to get their facilities ready for charging infrastructure. We've got a component there that targets residential customers, so EV drivers with their charging needs at home. And a signature part of that offering is a subscription plan that within $20, $25, you can cover most of your charging at home in the off-peak hours. And then finally, innovative fleet program that provides fleet advisory studies, kind of helps fleet operators to develop their roadmaps, a make-ready component, so get their sites ready for charging infrastructure. And then additionally, we have a component there to electrify 25 school buses in environmental justice community.
Great. Great. So we'll circle back with kind of the next steps and barriers there. But Julie, why don't you talk, if you would, this is infrastructure investment. You're really targeting the cost of the fuel. Can you walk us through what you're doing? Where are you on low carbon fuel standard?
Sure. So the New York League of Conservation Voters is leading a coalition. It's called Clean Fuels New York. We are advocating for a low carbon or a clean fuel standard here in New York that would seek to reduce emissions from the transportation sector 20% by 2030, which is very aggressive given that here we are in 2020. And we have a long way to go. It's the #1 source of greenhouse gas emissions in our state. It's about 36%. And it's something that really requires incentives to help move us forward to something cleaner. I think many people are concerned that we need to have a polluter pays models. Well, this is it, right? In this case, right, when you look at what's happened in California, diesel fuel and gasoline are the fuels that exceed the standard that the state would set. And so they would have to buy credits from a private market system from those people those businesses that are generating clean fuels. So either that's electricity for electric fleets, or the Metropolitan Transit Authority for the subway and for their electric buses, which can help accelerate the move for them by providing revenue to these cleaner fuels. So we are actively advocating for that now with the state legislature. And as part of the Climate Action Council, I'm on the Transportation Advisory Panel, and that is certainly something that is on the table for consideration as a policy that can help us move very quickly to these cleaner fuels.
Hey Ben, if you could just put a quick reflection on this. This is important to get these moving forward in the Northeast. These would be kind of groundbreaking if we could get these more broadly spread across the region.
Yeah, and I think the solutions we're showcasing today, maybe predictably for those following the region, are sort of centered on New York, right? I think we'll have the best success when we can align some of these market signals, maybe test them out, get them right in New York, but not waste too much time in expanding them to the entire region so that we can kind of act with one voice as a region and send the most decisive signal to the market to respond to.
That's really great. Really appreciate hearing each of your perspectives and the great work that you're up to. And we realize how important it is to get industry behind these important efforts and really having a seat at the table, understanding the needs and perspectives to really make sure that these programs are successful. I would really like to hear from both you, Rishi, and Julie. What are you hearing from industry and what level of support are you getting? Are there any gaps in terms of the critical stakeholders that you need to have at the table? How can the clean transportation community help your efforts? So maybe start with you, Rishi.
Thanks. Yeah, I think we're learning a lot as we are getting started with our programs as well. We are definitely hearing a lot from our customers as we do some of these fleet advisory studies. I think one thing where we can benefit from is, especially with some of our larger national account customers, that if we are involved in that planning process early on, it's very important for us to understand what the, what their roadmap looks like, how much, what's the scale that they're looking as they look to electrify their fleets. And the earlier we are involved in that process, the more we can help, and then more we can plan as those fleets get electrified.
So for our coalition for Clean Fuels New York, we have a variety of stakeholders who are involved in the coalition, from electric vehicle charging providers to those who are generating or creating biodiesel and biofuels, to farms. We have the agriculture industry, which is very important in New York. They have a waste product they'd like to turn into something more usable. Right now, we have farms in upstate New York that are selling their excess natural gas that's generated from their anaerobic digesters to California because of the clean fuel standard. We have, a variety of public health and other environmental advocates who are working on this. And we think that having more representation from the business community in our coalition would be welcome. We are talking to fleet operators about how this can help them. And we're getting very positive reaction that some of these national companies would target investments, or at least early investments, in New York with proper market incentives, like a low carbon fuel standard, like a clean fuel standard, when they're looking at where they're going to deploy early some of these technologies that they're using. We would love to see Amazon bring all those Rivian trucks here to New York City. I live very close personally to where a number of the other common carriers are deployed. We would love to have them use more electric vehicles in New York, and we think that that would be accelerated with a low carbon fuel standard. So having those voices and being able to demonstrate to Albany, to the state capitol, to our legislature and the governor, that their business community welcomes this, as they see a market mechanism that can provide them with certainty about how to move, would be very helpful.
That's great. Julie, thank you so much. And Rishi, I really appreciate your perspectives there. Ben, as our leader representing CALSTART in the Northeast region, and of course, we have a wonderful consortium of members that we're working with. How do you see our role in supporting both Rishi and Julie with their efforts in terms of bringing partners to the table, and certainly where there might be some needs in terms of perspective and support?
Yeah, I think part of it is what we've been fortunate to really spotlight today, recognizing the campaign efforts and in the case of National Grid, the new proposals that we've identified as strategic and important to our work in the region, and making clear to our membership, varied as it is, that if we want to get these things passed and move forward, you all have agency in it. In the case of National Grid and other really ambitious utility proposals, where we see utilities putting in place the right requests for things like make-ready investments, fleet advisory services. In many cases, we're going to want to push for rate design reform as well to make sure the price signals are right, which is something a low-carbon fuel standard can also do. So whether you're a manufacturer trying to sell alternative fuel vehicles or a fleet beneficiary of those price signals, we want to make clear that you can join on to these efforts in some way, and I'm happy to connect with any of you to discuss next steps. We want to encourage our members to actively engage in the Clean Fuels NY Coalition alongside us and Julie's team at New York League Conservation Voters. So it's really about just making sure that we can have our membership step up to the plate along with us.
Great, Ben. So kind of with our time constraints, a final question to all of you, and we are getting some really interesting questions on chat from people that kind of ties into this. We want to know what you would like other states or players in the region to do to support the change in the Northeast and to speed it up. And Rishi, we'll start with you again, and maybe just on the coordination with other utilities to get a more consistent make-ready and rate structures. What would you like to see in the Northeast?
Yeah, I think we're seeing definitely a trend here in terms of states moving beyond the light-duty vehicles, because I think the initial focus has been on that. And now we're seeing more and more programs coming out to support medium heavy duty vehicles and fleet programs. So to the extent that we're more coordinated and approaching this in a similar fashion can really help. Two examples that I would like to point out, which are really a positive trend, is in Massachusetts, the More EV program has been expanded to include commercial vehicles for rebates. That's really a positive trend. And then in New York, the commission recently announced an EV order that mostly targets make-ready work for commercial applications, but that also now includes some assessments for fleet and make-ready work for the fleet operators. So really positive in that regard. And then the more, as I mentioned, the more coordinated we are in terms of that approach and proposing similar programs can really accelerate EV adoption in this region.
Yeah, break down the barriers across the states. Julie, how about you? What more would you like to see states and players doing in the Northeast?
Sure, we would love to see the Transportation and Climate Initiative be adopted across the region. We think that with a low carbon fuel standard, they actually work together very nicely. We've seen that work in California, but having a cap and reinvest program that can really be driven and from the beginning address equity and environmental justice concerns is really critical. It's something that we can learn from the market-based programs that have been implemented in the past here in the region. The Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative program has been very successful. We believe in reducing emissions from the power sector, but we can learn from that because we know that there's equity concerns about how that's been implemented. New York has a tale of two grids. Downstate grid is dirty, where you have more people and more environmental justice communities. Upstate grid is pretty clean. We can learn from that to make sure that we're getting benefits in those communities that have been adversely impacted. So certainly advancing the Transportation and Climate Initiative and a low carbon fuel standard, I think are two complementary policies that will not only reduce greenhouse gas emissions and help move us much more quickly to electrification of many of these vehicles, but also really to address the public health problems associated with that, as we've seen has occurred in California. Also, as the Harvard study shows, could be accelerated. The number one source of school absenteeism is asthma, and it's highlighted in communities that are much closer to vehicular traffic. And we know that people of color are more subject to that pollution than others. And so we need to remedy that.
Right, Julie, thank you so much. And we have seen that we need both of these tools, the cap and reinvest, as well as LCFS in California to really be successful, and the utility investment. I mean, there's and vehicle incentives. Ben, could you just tie a quick bow then around us as we run out of time here for this Friday on the Northeast and kind of the next steps that you see out of this discussion?
I think basically what we want to do is recreate the California experience, but across a bunch of different states, which is a more difficult governance challenge, right? So we've seen a lot of what works to really have a global leading market in clean commercial vehicles. And now it's on efforts like the ones we've highlighted and discussed today to make sure we can standardize those conditions, get the price signals right through rates, through low carbon fuel standards, make sure those revenues are being funneled into investment programs that reduce the upfront purchase price and can help to finance, some of the upfront burden of the infrastructure that needs to be in place. And then there's the planning element as well. We need to have a long-term coordinated plan across these jurisdictions so we can put in place the right conditions to be basically the next California, or hopefully even better. I don't know if that's sacrilege to say, but I hope we can achieve it.
I actually think the Northeast can, and I think the NESCOM and the MOU process can be such a powerful way to tie the region together and to drive a huge region of people and power to force this change. So thank you very much to all of our guests, to Ben Mandel, Julie Tighe, Rishi, Sondhi. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Great discussion. Alicia, I guess we have next week to look forward to now, right?
Yes, we do. And gosh, time flies by and these weeks fly by.
No
We had a
kidding.
wonderful panel, and I just want to also thank each and every one of you and keep up the great work that you're doing. And we want to hear back from you down the road on how you're progressing and how we can continue to help you. Yes, we do have some great events coming up, and I just want to make sure that I bring it to everyone's attention so that you sign up and don't miss out. We have HTUF's 20th anniversary celebration and Vehicle Electrification Industry Day on October 20th. You see the link there, and I know Casey's probably putting that in our chat so that you guys can register for that. So please join us for that. That will be great. We'll also be talking about that next week too. On October 27th, we're going to have our Advanced Clean Trucks implementation with California Senator Lena Gonzalez, as well as the California Trucking Association, Chris Shimoda. That is going to be a great conversation. Of course, certainly supports a good conversation we had today. And then lastly, CalSTART's annual celebration and bringing everyone together to talk about the advancements of technology, where we're going and where we need to go. Join us for CalSTART's annual meeting on November 17th. You see the link there. We look forward to your participation.
Well, we have another yearly celebration. To just give a tip of the hat to Alicia, I think it's your birthday coming up tomorrow. And thank you, Abby Swain, for pointing that out. A good friend of yours from the Northeast, but from all of us, a happy birthday to you, Alicia.
Oh, thank you so much, Bill. Thank you, everyone.
Well, sadly, that also brings us to the close of CCTU, but maybe we can get some birthday cake afterwards. That would be great. Remember, we do post each week's edition on our website, and we usually now get it up on Friday afternoon. Check it out and retweet it to others if you'd like to have other people share in this. You can find it at calstart.org/CCT update. Hey, next week, very exciting what we've got. We're going to take a deeper look at this 20th anniversary of HTUF and its work with the Army. We've been previewing what they're doing on this exciting drive towards greater electrification in their powertrains. Plus, Navistar launched hybrid trucks first via our HTUF program. We're going to give you a brief insider's visit to Navistar's next e-mobility headquarters next week in Michigan and talk about their next steps. As always, we really salute you for all of your good work to drive action and change in clean transportation. Together, we are changing transportation and the world, and that's important to all of us. For Alicia Gildy and our clean commercial transportation team here at CalSTART, I'm Bill Van Amberg. Thanks again for joining us. Be safe, take care of yourself and others, and stay connected. And we will CCT you next Friday right here. Until next week, goodbye.